first experience of playing any kind of instrument at first was in 3rd grade through my public school music program, and everybody has to play the recorder in 3rd grade. I remember I had fun with it, but at the same time, you know, it was just something I kind of just rolled with. But in 4th grade, we were able to choose either a string instrument or a band instrument, and I chose the viola. I remember that everybody chose violin, and the cello was too big for me. You know, I'm only 5 feet tall now, so back then I'm sure it was a lot shorter. But I did like this boy, and he played viola a year before, and I wanted to sit next to him. So that was my random life choice that kind of influenced everything, you know, post that. I always had a really enthusiastic music teacher growing up. We had a really quirky orchestral conductor, and he called my mother, I believe, you know, not too soon after I started, and suggested for me to get a private teacher. So from that point on, I always kind of had another outlet besides just the orchestral public school music experience. No one really in my family played any musical instruments, although my mother's a big music fan, would always have music blasting, even, you know, from the Doors to the Beatles to Led Zeppelin, some, you know, 70s rock, or Madonna in the 80s. So nothing really classical in my house, but I was in a youth orchestra growing up, Long Island Youth Orchestra. I'm from Long Island, New York. And I, like I said, just always had many different outlets to perform in at a young age. I studied with the same private teacher for several years. She pushed me to, you know, pursue it. And I thought, you know, I always loved children, and I was a camp counselor growing up, so thought it would be kind of the next route to perhaps maybe teach viola or orchestra. When I was probably about a junior or senior in high school, I started teaching one of my friend's little sisters viola, and then I started teaching her friend viola, and then I got my first job teaching at a music store, and in the back they had studios. So my first experience teaching privately, I was probably about 17 years old, so 30 now, and my studio's grown quite large. You know, I have about 35 private students. And I even did that during my undergraduate career at Stony Brook University. So while I was in college, I taught on the weekends, had about 20 students there. And then when I relocated to Boston in 2008 for my master's, I slowly built up another studio, to which now is full-time, 7 days a week. What drew me to Boston was to study with Roger Tapping. He's the current violist of the Juilliard String Quartet. He used to be in the Taka String Quartet out in Colorado. He's just a very warm, he's British, he's very warm and positive, and I just really connected with him. Even on our first lesson, he asked me, "Would you like to play my viola?" I'm like, okay. It's from 1680. Not that I was gonna break it, but that was just the kind of humility that he had, just a very genuine person, and I wanted to study with somebody like that. After graduating with a master's degree with emphasis in string pedagogy and a graduate performance diploma from the Longy School of Music in Cambridge, I was teaching throughout those 3 years, and it would just be silly for me to quit my job again and start all over and go back home. I felt like I kind of did the New York thing. For me to actually move to Manhattan and try the whole thing in Brooklyn is still kind of a dream, but I would never be able to do what I do here in New York. I would be sitting in my car in traffic for too long. But besides that, I just love Boston. It's very historic. There's a big music scene. I've met a lot of wonderful people since living here almost 9 years now. And I don't foresee myself moving back to New York. I feel like I've really grown some roots here. Teaching and playing are definitely equal passions. I love that I never get the same result twice when I teach a student. Everyone learns differently. The enthusiasm is always there. You know, number one thing, you have to make it fun, especially at a young age. And I think that's why I kind of grabbed on to the music train and had to go for a ride because it was just always something that made me happy, and I was always artsy growing up, drawing and, you know, doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love teaching and playing. I mean, the reaction you get from an audience is very rewarding. I freelance quite a bit in amongst teaching my studio. I perform for weddings in the summertime. I also play regularly with Cape Symphony in Hyannis. And I also play with some regional professional orchestras, such as in Brockton Symphony, Symphony Nova, Boston New Music Initiative. I'm really big in promoting new music as opposed to the epic composers that, you know, have influenced my life. But yeah, I pretty much play all over Boston and the Cape and Milford. I would say I've been playing with Claflin Hill about 4 to 5 years. Yeah. I really enjoy coming to Milford. The community is so welcoming, very knowledgeable and appreciative. And even if we do perform some unknown works, Paul sets the audience up prior and really guides their listening, and I think really makes them appreciate what we're playing even more. Paul Sarpine's a great musician. He's an excellent clarinetist. Performed with him before. And he's a wonderful conductor, lots of energy, lots of passion, lots of knowledge. And within the 3 rehearsals leading up to our concerts, we have one starting next week, just planning that week, there's a lot of work that's done and a lot of enjoyment that I get out of it. And just being under his baton is a really loyal, wonderful experience that I share. I think the audience members in Claflin Hill that attend our concerts are very varied. It's not typical older or not even older, but it's just not one type of audience. And I believe that, you know, through word of mouth as well, a lot of people invite others, and it's just kind of a very warm experience every time. Most concerts are pretty memorable when I come here. But one stands out. I believe in November this past year we performed Brahms's 4th Symphony. Brahms is one of my top 2 next to Beethoven composers that I just live for. And it was the one symphony I've not played, so check on my bucket list. But it's epic. That's really the only way I could describe the piece and the experience. Not only has the orchestra grown, I mean, every piece we play has a different amount of musicians, but this first year was the first time we took a tour to Woonsocket, Rhode Island for our Pops concert, and I think Paul wants to travel a little bit more with the orchestra within the region to broaden our audience, and it's good for us too. And you know, I just feel that we've come, well, I mean, Paul mentioned since I think it was 2001 he started the orchestra. It's just come such a long way, and he also has a youth program, and he's just really given so much back to the community, and you know, I really respect that.
This is Milford TV News and Sports Director Tim Coet. Make sure you check out new editions of the Milford Informer every Friday at 7:30 p.m. or during one of our 8 convenient re-air times throughout the weekend. You can also find individual news stories as well as full archived editions on our YouTube page My Milford TV. If you live in the greater Milford area and have an idea for a news story, you can tweet at us using the handle @Milford_TV, or you can contact me directly by sending an email to news@milfordtv.net.